Mr. Newberry, would you give a thumbs up when you're ready?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to welcome everyone to the October 1st, 2021 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. This meeting is being offered on Zoom webinar platform. On tonight's agenda, first roll call of commission members, please.
Commissioner Helfrey.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Cohn.
Here.
Commissioner Boyles. Commissioner Clayton.
Here.
Commissioner Doppler.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Chair Beatty.
Here.
Councilmember Brost.
Here.
Mayor Boland.
All right. On tonight's, oh, go ahead.
No, just thank you.
Okay. On tonight's agenda, we have two public hearing items, one letter of recommendation, one information report, and 4 other items for consideration. Does the Department of Planning have any comments?
No, sir, Mr. Chair, but thank you for asking.
Thank you. Can I get an approval of the minutes from September 7th?
I move that we accept the minutes from September 7th, 27th.
Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Councilman Brost. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Seeing none, the motion passes. Let's see. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak at tonight's meeting? I will note that if you wish to speak about the public hearing items, we will bring you forward at that time. This is for anything that's not a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Markwart has used the raise hand feature.
Okay, go ahead and bring him in.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just so you're aware, once Mr. Markwart begins his presentation, the Department of Planning will time him. Each participant during public participation has up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Is everybody able to hear me now?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right, I just wanted to thank the department for getting the documents together regarding the special circumstances overlay district. I read through those and I think there's a good amount of information there for the commission to review. And I just want to thank everyone on the commission for taking their time to review those and make an appropriate decision as we move forward in the special circumstances overlay district process. That's all I had for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak tonight? Seeing none, or should I give it another minute or go ahead? All right. Seeing none, we'll move into the first public hearing item. And let me bring up my script. All right. In the city of Wildwood, public hearings are truly intended to accept comments and questions concerning the advertised items. Since these hearings are being presented at a public hearing, no action is planned on them tonight, and consideration of these items is to be taken no earlier than November 1st, 2021. This approach ensures that the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear all opinions before taking any action. The city's Department of Planning will address the comments, questions, and concerns that are raised tonight and include them as part of its formal recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission will allow all parties adequate time to present their position. Those in attendance via the Zoom webinar platform should use the raise hand feature to indicate you wish to speak at this hearing, or indicate in the chat feature that you would like to speak. A team member will add you to the list of speakers, then will be communicated to me as chair, and I will invite you to speak when it is your turn. In addition, information on this item can be found at the city's website at www.cityofwildwood.com. The commission would like to thank you for your cooperation and participation in tonight's hearing. Mr. Vunich?
Mr. Chair, I will read the request into the record, and then thereafter, Mr. Newberry has a slide presentation that he will provide with your permission, just kind of giving you an idea of what the subject property looked like today.
Thank you.
The first item under public hearings is PZ 23 and 23A-21 Westridge Commons, McBride Barra Land Development Company, LLC, care of Jeannie M. Allmiller, 17415 North Outer 40 Road, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005. A request for the modification from the Workplace District designation of the Town Center Regulating Plan to the Neighborhood General District on a 2.51 acre tract of land consisting of 5 lots of record, all being located on the north and south sides of New College Avenue between State Route 109 and West Avenue. Street addresses 17001, 17002, 17005, 17006, and 17010 New College Avenue. St. Louis County locators numbers 24V 420362, 24V 420351, 24V 420313, 24V 420340, and 24V 420331. Accompanying the aforementioned regulating plan modification is a request for a change in zoning from the amended CA Plan Commercial District PZ 14-01 McLean Properties to the R6A 4,000 square foot resident district with a planned residential development overlay district PRD for the same tract of land. These requests seek to modify the use of the subject tract of land from its current vacant and undeveloped commercial status to a residential type of use. Proposed use, a total of 18 attached single-family dwellings on individual lots of record with common ground and required public space areas. This particular set of lots, the tract of land, is located in Ward 8. And again, Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Newberry will share a screen and narrate his slide presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the purpose of the department's presentation tonight is just to give you an idea of where the property is located and what it looks like. As Mr. Vunich stated, the first slide is an aerial view of this area of Wildwood. The properties are identified by a light blue indication here. As you can see, State Route 109, Manchester Road, and West Avenue. The next slide is the site development plan overlaid onto an aerial view of the properties. And then the following slides will be photographs of the subject site and surrounding development pattern. This is standing at the western end of the site, looking towards State Route 109 and the existing streetscape associated with the Westridge commercial development there. Bushwick Office Center, excuse me. The next slide is standing in the same location, looking to the east, down New College Avenue towards West Avenue. The next photograph is standing at the corner of the property, subject property, on the north side of New College Avenue, looking towards the east. And again, standing on the south side of New College Avenue, looking toward the east. following few photographs are taken from the kind of the center of the property where there are existing curb cuts, and the site development plan shows a system of private alleyways to access the homes. This is looking to the northeast. And this is standing on the north side of the property, of New College Avenue, looking to the southwest. Standing in the same location, looking to the southeast. This is a photograph taken on the northern side of New College Avenue, looking to the south. Again, I'm referencing the curb cut area as well. This is standing at the intersection of West Avenue, looking to the north toward Manchester Road. The street you see in the photo is West Avenue. This is standing at that same intersection, looking to the south. And again, the same location, looking directly to the east. The homes you see over here are included in the, or part of the Stone Mill subdivision. And the last few photographs are standing at the intersection of West Avenue and New College Avenue, looking to the west, this being the south side of New College Avenue, and this being the north side of New College Avenue. And Mr. Chair, that concludes the department's brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Sorry, I muted myself and forgot.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I
Mhm.
think I've promoted everybody relative to the petitioner McBride Homes Barra Land Development. If I've missed somebody, please advise or you speak, or whoever's representing the group. Thank you.
Would anyone from the petitioners group like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, my name's Jeannie Allmiller. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner. May I share screen for the presentation?
Sure.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mayor, Council Member, Mr. Vunich, and Mr. Newberry. Thank you very much for having us with you this evening. We are very excited about this project. With me tonight, and I do think that Mr. Vunich promoted them to the panel, so they'll be available to answer any questions if I can't, is Josh Foster with Elite Development, and Mike Faulkner with Sterling Engineering, who's our engineer on the project. So just a little bit about the background for McBride. We're the largest home builder in Missouri. We're actually the largest union home builder in the country. We've been in business for 75 years. Actually, this month is our 75th anniversary. We're currently building in approximately 30 neighborhoods in the St. Louis metropolitan area. And we have a substantial amount of experience creating new neighborhoods in your city. Mr. Newberry already went through the site, so I'll kind of be brief on this since we've already spent some time on this. The site is a total of 2.51 acres. As we looked at the project and the master plan and talked to Mr. Vunich, Mr. Newberry about the project, we thought about the master plan, the existing zoning, and of course, we're a residential developer, so our interest was in a residential use here. And we'll talk a little bit about the history of the site in a moment. But we wanted to meet the city's master plan neighborhood design criteria for residential town center properties. We wanted to meet the established, we wanted this project to meet the neighborhood general district criteria within the town center as well. A little bit about the history of the site, because it's interesting. The existing zoning is planned commercial C8, which is what the site is zoned today. It is currently, as you saw from the photos that Mr. Newberry presented, undeveloped and vacant. It's owned currently by a bank. We're under contract to purchase that from a bank that it is our understanding was taken back in a foreclosure by that bank. It is also our understanding that it has been actively marketed and listed for commercial uses for a potential buyer or user since 2014. none of which have come to fruition. So we approached the bank, or the bank kind of approached us about considering a residential use on this site. So when we did that, when we took a look at the site, we had three primary goals when we were thinking through the site, because it is a unique site bisected by New College Avenue and consisting of many parcels actually. We wanted to design a residential community that's consistent and respects the city's master plan for the town center properties. We wanted to design a transition project because of the unique nature and the location of this project next to and really within an existing commercial use zoning. We wanted to design a transition project from that commercial use to existing residential uses. And we wanted to select a product that we did not perceive as being offered much in this market area. So Mr. Newberry already went through the zoning map, but here it is again. As you can see, the site is currently zone C8 plan commercial. As part of this project, we are seeking a rezoning from that C8 plan commercial to an R6A zoning with a planned residential development overlay district. The intent of this zoning change is to allow for flexibility in creating a residential plan that is harmonious with the adjacent commercial development, and create a residential development that provides more families to the area that can use the existing commercial uses that are in your wonderful town center, walk to those uses. But we wanted to provide a housing type that is not currently being offered in the city, and we believe is very much in demand. It would meet some new and existing residents' demands for new housing. So here is the site plan. I want to take you on point out a couple of things about the proposed site plan. I'll show you some renderings of the houses themselves in a minute, but it does show 18 townhomes attached in groups of 3 and 4. These would be fee simple, so they would not be condominium. The lots would be owned individually by the owners. There would be an HOA established for the community that would uniformly maintain the exterior of the homes and the lots themselves. So uniform grass cutting and uniform maintenance of the exteriors of the homes would be provided by the homeowners association. A couple of things here. What we really liked about this product, which is the townhome product, was that we could orient it toward New College Avenue to give that nice town center, more urban architecture streetscape along College Avenue, but without those curb cuts for driveways. So we would utilize these curb cuts that you saw in the photographs from Mr. Newberry, and access the units from the rear, the proposed private alley driveways to the rear of the unit. So you would not see those driveways from New College Avenue, and you would not see the attached garages from New College Avenue. It has that nice uniform streetscape with the townhomes. We also provided buffers. So the only time the lots themselves touch an adjacent property, which is just really New College Avenue. So you can see as you go around the site that we've ringed it with open space, both public and private, and we don't have lots directly touch the adjacent properties, which I think is a nice feature here. Through discussions with staff, we've made substantial improvements to the plan, including the addition of additional parking spaces, which you can see in these dark gray bump outs on the south. There are 2 of them, and on the north, there is 1 of them that provides for additional parking on the site. And I should note that we originally presented this project to the city's Development and Zoning Review Committee. We actually presented, and I think that was back in June of this year, we actually presented 2 projects to them at that time. This one received very favorable feedback, and the feedback we received was that it was great use for this site, but has long been vacant. The other project, just to clarify, we are not pursuing, that is not our project, and we decided not to pursue that project just for clarification this evening. So we wanted to go based upon the positive feedback and the great comments we received about the utilization of this site, pursue this project. Here it is with the overlay with the aerial, and you can see its orientation with the commercial buildings here. So some of the project features, some of which we've talked about, it's 18 single-family row homes, again, attached in groups of 3 to 4. The site is a little over 2.5 acres, but 1.37 acres of public common ground, common open space, and private open space, which is actually 70% of the site is that open space feature, which is just great. Sidewalks exist, of course, on both sides of the street. As I showed you, there's one garage space per home with an additional place to park a car in the driveway behind that garage, and an additional 12 guest parking spaces in those areas, those gray areas I mentioned on the site plan. We're maintaining substantial buffers around the perimeter of the site. And the site, again, the history of the site's been vacant and marketed for at least the past 15 years, been marketed. Brings a new desired product to the city, I think in the best possible location. If you were going to locate a row home, attached townhome product in the city, this is probably the best location for it. Because of its adjacent, because of the site's being adjacent to the existing commercial. It provides a nice transition from a residential standpoint to the more single family oriented residential. And we've had great success with this product, and we've offered it in other communities as well. So we know that there's a market there for this. This is just a recap of some of the things we've been talking about. The density for an R6A zoning on this site would actually allow for 27 lots. We're only seeking 18 on this particular site. So just to talk a little bit about the single family homes. These are very popular series of homes. They're attached row homes, like I said, in groups of 3 to 4, rear entry garages, consistent with that more urban town center architecture. And in a moment, when I show you the elevations, you'll see that we are proposing all brick front elevations. We do fully sodded yards on all of our homes and complete landscape packages with each home. So you can see here are the elevations for the homes, all brick fronts, giving that nice urban streetscape as you drive down New College without any garages, without any curb cuts for driveways, just walking up to your front porch and having that nice uniform architecture, which we believe will blend nicely with the surrounding commercial. I should note that buyers here will also be able to go to our award-winning design studio, really not far from here, just to the north in Chesterfield, where they're able to, it's a 10,000 square foot design studio. We have not built a project in Wildwood since we've had the studio. It opened about a little over 2 years ago. And homeowners can come and make investments in their community or in their home. They can choose their different cabinets, their different countertops, their different flooring. And so it's just a wonderful, wonderful, fun experience. And here's some pictures of the studio so that you can see just the great experience your new Wildwood citizens will be having when they come to the design studio to make their investments in their new home. So this is the first in many steps, or actually one of the couple steps in, but we will of course be talking about this project at several of your upcoming meetings. But just to recap what we're seeking tonight, we're seeking a positive recommendation at the end of this process from the Planning Commission for rezoning to the R6A planned residential development approval for this project. We're also requesting that the regulating plan be amended to remove the property from the workplace overlay district. And we did have that pre-development meeting with the Development and Zoning Review Committee, and it was recommended that we proceed with the rezoning. With that, I'd be happy to just want to reiterate one thing. The existing planned commercial C8 zoning that's on the site does allow for things like offices, medical, dental offices, clinics, shops, restaurants, retail, and parking garages within that workplace district. So what we're doing is we're trying to take a site that's been marketed for those uses and really turn it into something that I think very much fits in architecturally and use-wise with the city's vision for town center and add some families and some individuals to use the wonderful retail that you've established and commercial that you've established, to add some more folks to use those, to walk to those wonderful commercial and retail places that exist in your town center, and try to provide that nice transition use, whereas the commercial has been unsuccessful so far. So with that, we're available. Our team is to answer any questions, either from the commission or from the public. We will be here to answer any questions. And I thank you for your time, and very excited about this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Commissioner Jackson?
How many square foot? And first of all, I apologize. When I turn on the light in this hotel room, this is what you get. So in the dark here. How many square foot?
Of the lots or the homes?
The homes inside.
The homes are going to range in square footage from, I think the lowest is about just a little over, is about 1050 square feet. And it'll go probably up to almost 1500 square feet, depending on, we have a couple different floor plans to choose from.
Okay, and have you written the HOA rules? So where I'm going with this is, can these be subleased or rented as apartments? Someone comes in and buys them and they rent them as apartments without, that's what my concern is, because I know people would do this. These are very popular actually in rural areas as well, where I come from, seeing these come up everywhere. They end up being bought, then they're apartment facilities in essence. So I'm wondering, is there anything that restricts that?
So we have what I'll call a somewhat skeleton, what I call covenants and CCRs, covenants, conditions, and declarations. It's like the modern form of an indenture that we modify for each community based upon the city's, code and our own needs for this community. Typically in this, in all of our communities on the leasing question, we don't prohibit leasing for folks that want to rent out their unit, but we do require that it be a year-long lease so that you prohibit these sort of day-by-day Airbnb type situations, and that lease be approved by the directors, or at least given to them and them having approval of the directors. What I can tell you is, based upon experience where we built this product and similar type townhome products, we have not, and we built this product many times in St. Louis County, both unincorporated and in incorporated cities. We have not built it in your city yet. We've also built it in incorporated cities in St. Charles County. We have not had to date a high rent experience in those communities where we built it. But as far as our standard provision for leases, we do permit them, but we require them to be a year-long lease. And we require several different things in that lease: adherence to the CCNR, so that the tenant is aware of the rules for the community and the CCNRs themselves, and that they acknowledge that. Now, I hope that answers your question.
Well, one thing I'm not clear on, I thought you said HOA, then you're saying CCR, maybe one and the same. I'm kind of dumb when it comes to that. I don't think the city can mandate non-rentals, but I think HOAs probably can, but they can change those as well. My biggest concern on this, I've seen the good side of these, and I've seen the ugly side of these, where they become leased out and rented out, and this is a town center that we have. So that's just a concern I have. I'm not saying I'm for nor against. I'm just kind of pointing that out, and I'll just kind of shut up now.
When I use the term HOA, it's sort of the directors, right? The three directors who have the governance responsibilities for the community. The CCNRs is just a document of the more formal rules for the community.
Okay, all right, thank you. I got you.
So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm just concerned if this can be leased out and they essentially become a apartment, is what they become. And with that, and you got a beautiful town center with a lot of investment, and there could be a downside to that. Anyway, that's just general comment from me.
Yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a couple of things. First of all, relative to the topic that Commissioner Jackson brought up, we actually have an item on our agenda relative to that. And I think that ultimately the rental issue is probably going to be, and the city attorney who's with us this evening can talk on this if he disagrees, but I think that ultimately that rental issue is going to be a hybrid of city rules plus what would be done by the HOA relative to its rules internally as to this project. John, is that a fair assessment?
To a certain extent, yes. In terms of the later discussion, there's going to be a consideration of limitation on what are considered transient guests, which is 30 days or less type of rentals. In terms of permanent rentals, that's a different issue that could be addressed in the CCRs.
Okay. And CCR is what? That's an acronym for what?
It's the indentures for subdivision indentures.
Okay, thank you. And then just informationally, thank you so much for the presentation and what you're wanting to do here. Just a point you mentioned, I think I heard you say that these were going to be, these units were going to be fee simple absolute and not condominiums, but actually those are not mutually exclusive. The condominium owners will get fee simple absolute, I'm assuming, plus an undivided interest in the common areas. So it's not an issue of fee simple absolute versus rentals or whatever in a condominium. You can actually have fee simple absolute in the condominium situation. And so I'm assuming, just for clarity, that whomever may purchase, if this comes to fruition, these units, they would receive fee simple absolute. Is that correct?
Yes, condominium is governed by specific statutes in the Missouri statutes. That requires a condominium plat. You don't actually own the ground itself, just the units in a true condominium. In this case,
but they have fee simple absolute title to the unit.
correct, and the ground, and then they have, by virtue of their ownership in their membership in the homeowners association, they have an undivided interest in the common ground.
Correct.
Correct.
We're on the
Yes.
same page. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Oh, thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. And my question is there, I know you said you built these row homes in other communities. What community is closest to us that you built them in? Can you tell us where that might be located?
I would say I know we built them very long time ago in Ellisville, but that is such it's probably 3 or 4 iterations ago of this project. I would say the most recent in St. Louis County is probably Maryland Oaks, which is in Maryland Heights. And what I can do for you, Commissioner Ward, is I can give you the site address. I can send that to Mr. Newberry and he can distribute that to the commissioners so that they can look at that. I can also have our marketing department take some pictures of that community and send those to Mr. Newberry so he can distribute those to you as well.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
And I can get some pictures too of some others and send those.
To add on to that, I actually used to live in the row homes you put up in Ellisville behind what's now the Quick Trip.
Yes.
So to answer Commissioner Ward's question, they are right off Kiefer Creek.
Those are, again, we're probably on our 3rd or 4th change of updates and plans. So how old would you say those were? I want to say they're almost probably 20 years old. Would you say that, Mr. Chair?
Just about. My wife bought it brand new before we met, and she bought it in 2003.
Yeah. So you can go look at those, Commissioner Ward, but I will send you to, I will give Mr. Newberry some more modern communities you can look at to see what we're developing lately as part of this product.
Commissioner Cohn and then Commissioner Helfrey.
Thank you. I have a few questions in particular about the private common ground. Will the homeowner have the ability to add like a patio or possibly a a fenced-in backyard? And then would that then, I guess, require some type of perpetual easement over the common ground? And finally, would you use like maybe a percentage of the lot to determine how much of the common ground that they could get a perpetual easement on to build something like a patio?
All good questions. Let me take the last one first. Let me take the first one first because that might help. The lots, and maybe I could share that site plan again. That might help if I'm allowed to share screen again. Let's do that. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the site plan to help answer that question. Commissioner, can you see the light green versus the dark green? So the light,
Right
the
now,
light,
is your
oh,
back.
sorry.
We're not seeing the site plan.
Oh, you're not?
No,
Okay.
it looks like a screensaver.
Oh. Okay. Let's see.
Am I correct that these would be like 0 lot lines?
No.
No?
That's, can you see my screen now?
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, the light green. So if I just pick, let's say it's home number 15 right here.
Right.
The light green where I'm going to outline, maybe you can or can't see my cursor, but the light green is the entire lot that family would own. And so out the back here next to that garage, they could opt to do a patio, and that would not be on private open space or common ground. That would be on their own lot. So they would not need permission from the HOA to do that, but we would have restrictions in like what the mayor was talking about, our CCRs, about what size, and that would need to get director approval. Your next question was about fencing. On this product, we prohibit fencing altogether because of the uniform lawn maintenance that occurs here. But we might, in some cases, allow between the units, if you did have a patio, maybe a little half wall fence or something, just for some privacy between you and your neighbor. But fencing the rear enclosure of your lot would be prohibited in this community. And so the last question, Commissioner, I think was, they have an undivided interest as members of the homeowners association in the common ground. It's not based upon size of lot. It's just an undivided interest. But that shouldn't matter based on your question, because they can do a patio on their own lot here.
And what's the minimum size of the area that they have that could be in lawn? Like,
I might have to ask Mr. Faulkner, who might be on, to do some quick math on, you can kind of see, you see the driveway, Mr.
Yes.
Commissioner there.
Yeah.
Their whole backyard is what's light green next to that driveway.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
So,
it does.
so, if they want to do a buried fence for their dog, with the collar, they can do that. Or that's a private area to walk their dog on a leash, do a patio, a barbecue, something like that back there. There's plenty of room for all that to happen back there on their own lawn.
Very good. That answers my questions, and I hope this project moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Commissioner Helfrey?
Thank you, Chair Beatty. I had a couple questions about this project. One was about the parking spaces. You have 18, you've suggested 18 units, but you only have 12 overflow parking spaces. And it seems to me that's not very many. That's not even one per unit. And I realize that you said that there's one parking garage and there's one space for parking a car in a driveway. But if you have family over for Christmas or whatever holiday, it seems to me that you would need at least one parking space per unit. So I'm wondering if 12 for 18 units is enough. The next question I have is, how do you address mailboxes and trash receptacles? And then finally, I'm wondering how you're going to address the stormwater runoff. I see that on your drawings, you have 2 water basins, or they state water quality on your drawings. And I'm just curious, are those retention? Are those detention? What exactly are those, and will that be sufficient for the area? And then my question for Mr. Vunich is, we did in fact say in the town center updates team that alleys would be responsibility of the city for maintenance. Is that correct? That's all I have.
Thank you.
So to answer the parking question, where we built this community before most recently, we didn't actually, so yeah, you're absolutely right. Just to recap, 1 car in the garage and 1 car in the driveway. So that's 2 cars per unit, plus the additional parking spaces that I mentioned and showed in the gray there. When we built this, we've actually had less parking in projects. It works, I can tell you that. You know, not everybody's going to have a party at the same time. And again, we find with this buyer, sometimes they only have 1 car. And sometimes they have 2 cars, but certainly no more than 2 car for this type buyer. But many of them only have 1 car. So, because they're young professionals, some of them. So we have found that it just worked, even with less parking in other communities. I can get you some data and bring that back next time. We can talk about that. Your next question was on stormwater, and I want to introduce Mike Faulkner, but I also want to point out, Mike, that you should probably talk about the underground detention area, which I neglected to talk about during my presentation because I'm not the engineer, so I probably shouldn't be talking about it. But Mike, if you're on, if you could talk a little bit about detention, and if you want me to put the site plan up, I will, so you can, if someone could let me share again, please.
Yes, if you could. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mayor and members of the commission. I'll try to answer the questions. If you look at the site plan that Jeannie has up right now, there is an underground detention basin, a current underground detention basin that is just, and I think that's unit 12, just to the east of unit 12. It's in the, you can see the green area that kind of almost goes completely around that one corner there. There's correct. That's the underground detention. And the 2 stormwater basins that we have on those are water quality basins. Those are not going to be full detention basins. What their purpose is to pick up the water, cleanse it, and then it will be piped to the underground detention basin. That basin was sized for this whole development or this whole area here, and it was predicated on it being a commercial development, which would have a higher impervious area. This is going to have a lot less impervious area, so there's going to be excess stormwater detention in the underground basin. So all we're really going to be required to do is provide water quality. So we're picking up the surface water, piping it to these water quality basins, and then they will discharge into the underground detention basin. I might also point out is there is an opportunity on the parking to for us. So parking is allowed on one side of New College Avenue, I believe, and we're proposing 12. There could be as much as 12 parking spaces, parallel parking spaces along New College Avenue, and that's represented on should be on one of your copies, the very last sheet of your set of plans that we provided.
And then, Ms. Commissioner, you had asked too about CBUs, and I neglected to answer that. Right now, what we're showing, although I don't know this has been approved by the postmaster yet, but we're showing 2 CBUs, one on the north near the excess parking and one on the south near that excess parking. Mike, I heard what you said about the New College Avenue parking, but I don't think the fire district is going to allow parking on New College Avenue, is the feedback I think we've received. So
Okay.
just to clarify that.
Joe, can you confirm or deny?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the request for those visitor spaces was premised on the department's experience and the concern about having parking on New College Avenue, given its width. And so McBride Homes was kind enough to indicate those additional 12 spaces. And we actually, the department believes those will be ample for the purpose. As you can see on some of the units, the driveway is much longer than others in the development. And I think they can accommodate even 2 cars in the driveway along with the one in the garage. And to answer Ms. Helfrey's question regarding the alleys, the Town Center Update team made a recommendation to have alleys be public versus private. And ultimately, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted that. So there'll be a discussion about the disposition of the alleys relative to the city of Wildwood as part of the zoning discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Commissioner Depler and then Commissioner Jackson.
Hi, I was just curious if you had done a traffic study and determined, what the impact would be on traffic on 109 and New College Avenue?
No, we have not conducted a traffic study. With the existing zoning being C8 planned commercial, we just very strongly believe, based upon our knowledge of traffic on other projects, that the traffic generated by this type of residential use will be substantially less than some type of commercial use that would have been allowed on the site. But for 18 units, no, we have not conducted a traffic study. We do believe that will be much less intense than the current zoning.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I will ask Rick Brown, our Director of Public Works, who's a professional traffic operating engineer, to consider that and provide a response for you, Ms. Depler.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, just curious what the town center committee thought in regard to this fit with the overall plan. Did they feel it did?
Mr. Jackson, the Town Center Update team had completed its task before this particular project was submitted to the Development and Zoning Review Committee, and now obviously the Planning and Zoning Commission. I will tell you, and I'm sure Ms. Helfrey can echo this as well as Mr. Cohn, I forgot he was on the update team as well, that there was the desire to see development on the property after so many years being idle and vacant. Thank you.
I definitely applaud them for finding something creative for that. Didn't we go through an exercise with another development around the town center where we wanted 1 acre plots as opposed to half acre? So it would be, larger yacht lots, less density. Well, this kind of goes in the opposite direction of that. I know it's smaller units. And we voted to make sure those lots were at least 1 acre and et cetera around the town center. So are we being consistent here is my other question.
Mr. Jackson, the Town Center Update team created the new land use district called the Neighborhood Edge Transition. And typically that was applied on the perimeter of the existing town center boundary to kind of address higher density or high intensity residential or commercial uses abutting 3 acre development. In this particular instance, this is a perimeter location, but has always been shown as workplace district or commercial, which obviously is more intense than residential. So the department actually sees this as a de-intensification of the use at this location. Thank you.
Okay, last comment would be, now that the town center is being developed so successfully, wouldn't you think that something commercial would come in the near future before it was undeveloped in that area? Just a general statement, not really a question. I'm done.
Well, I will say, living in the area, these have sat vacant. There's not a lot of traffic on New College Avenue. I think right now it's mostly used as a cut through from the offices that are there to get over to Manchester Road. I would like to see some commercial here, but I don't think it has the traffic to generate the commercial development the way the lots on 109, closer to 100 potentially could. Commissioner Cohn?
Yeah, there's a reason why this property hasn't been bought since being marketed since 2014 as commercial. It's not a good use for that site. There's no visibility whatsoever. And I think you'd be mistaken to think that sometime in the future, there would be an opportunity to develop this as commercial. What's suggested is probably the highest and best use for this property.
Commissioner Broyles? You're muted. You're muted, Commissioner Broyles. There you go.
With regard to the traffic on that section of the road, the bus travels there and then turns right on 109 and parks. So there is a bus that goes from the east to the west on New College Avenue to 109, carrying people for business and also for the college.
Mhm.
Just wanted to raise that as a comment.
Yeah, I have seen it as well. And it's been a while, but I've used it too. Do we have any other comments or questions? Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Chair, just to advise those that are attendees, if you'd like to speak on this particular request, if you could use the raise hand feature or put a note in chat so we know to promote you. Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing either. I believe Mr. Mayor Boland has his hand raised. Thank you.
Mayor Boland?
Just in closing, I just want to thank the presenter for a great presentation and all of you for all the great questions.
I would agree. Thank you. And like I said, I used to live in one of these homes. They're good. They're very good starter homes for younger professionals. And I think we could use some of that development here in the city.
Well, later.
Oh, just a quick question to Joe. Is there going to be a request for a motion that changes from commercial to residential? Was Mr. Cohn has sold me on that part. And if we do that, are we approving this, or does this particular development have another step that we would have to approve this?
Mr. Jackson, tonight the department will just be requesting a motion to close the public hearing. And in a month's time, we'll have an information report with the department's recommendation for the commission's first action. Thank you.
And just so you know, Mr. Cohn sold me. I have no issues now with changing it from commercial to residential. I'd like to know more about this development before I vote on that. Just FYI.
Mr. Jackson, Mr. Newberry, Mr. Cross, Mr. Brown, and I will do our very best to get that information to you. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to close this public hearing? Motion by Commissioner Healthfree, seconded by Councilman Brost. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The public hearing is closed.
Thank you. The second public hearing tonight is PZ 27-21, Johan E. Sanchez, 2511 Hickory Manor Drive, Wildwood, Missouri, 63011, care of Nikki Rosario, SunPro Solar, 1824 Buckham Road, Caseyville, Illinois, 62232. A request for a conditional use permit, CUP, in the R3 10,000 square foot resident district with a planned environment unit, PEU, street address 2511 Hickory Manor Drive, locator number 23V420121, for the installation of roof-mounted solar panels, which are to be placed on the rear of the dwelling, but due to the lot having double frontage, are to be situated as to be visible from the adjoining roadway, Taylor Road. The request is to be reviewed in accordance with Chapter 415, 1.140 R3, 10,000 square foot resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance, which establishes standards and requirements for the installation of solar panels. The requested permit is required due to the panel's placement on the rear-facing area of the roofs of the dwelling and would be visible from the adjoining roadway. This particular lot and home is located in Ward 5. And again, Mr. Chair, with your permission, Mr. Newberry has a slide presentation that he can narrate for the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, before I begin the department's presentation.
Mayor Boland?
No, I'm sorry. Before we begin, I just, in City Attorney Young, you may want to get on the Zoom here, but I was looking at the material on this and I don't see a visual and I could have missed it. And if I did, please let me know, but I don't see a visual that shows what these panels will look like relative to the home and the visibility of streets, which is I believe, the central reason they're coming before us for a CUP request. So are there slides or something that show that? Because I did not see that in the link on the agenda for this item.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll address the mayor's question.
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
Mr. Mayor, no, there were not images included in the packet of materials. That is the purpose of the department's presentation at tonight's meeting. I do have a few photographs as well as an aerial image of the location of the lot in the department's presentation. But you are correct, they were not included in the packet.
Okay, well, what is the reason as to why they weren't included? Because it would be, otherwise we're going to be assessing these sort of on site as we have this hearing. And of course, it would be nice to have those ahead of time. But, and I mean, where I might be headed with this is a motion to postpone, but since it's a public hearing, I'm not sure we can do that. But in any event, so what's the reason why we don't have we didn't have those in anticipation of this meeting?
Mr. Chair, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, since it is a public hearing, no action is requested on the part of the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight. The intent of the public hearing, as you know, is to collect comments not only from the Planning and Zoning Commission members, but anyone in the public that would like to speak. The idea is to provide a layering of information. You received the packet from SunPro, which indicated the location of the solar panels on the rear portions of the dwelling. And then the slides that Mr. Newberry will provide will indicate why the department believes they will be visible from Taylor Road. Barely, but they will be visible. And since the zoning ordinance doesn't say completely visible or some degree of visibility, we thought it best to bring it to the commission, and you all can make that determination as well. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I guess the reason why I think it would be helpful to have the visuals for this particular hearing is so that we could ask questions that we might not otherwise be able to ask at a hearing that we're only going to have once on this, I'm assuming, because without it, I don't know that I would have the same question. So I guess now I'll go to my ultimate question, which is, City Attorney Young, is it possible to do a motion to postpone on this until we have that information?
Mr. Mayor, in terms of the hearing, my suggestion, the answer in short is yes, to continue, you can continue the hearing. My suggestion would be to have the presentation, have the information that could be provided today, and then you can continue the hearing after that for any additional information that you may request and seek, including.
Okay. So Thank you so much. And so, Mr. Chairman, just know that once this presentation is done, I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing so that we can get that information because it may affect the questions that we ask at this hearing.
Okay. But yeah, I would like to see the presentation first.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, Travis, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before I do proceed with the department's presentation, there are a few in attendance tonight. I'm not recognizing any of a representative for this project in attendance, but if there is that I don't know of, please raise your hand so we know to let you in. Thank you for that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before Mr. Newberry begins his presentation, the department would like to enter into the record the following items: the city's charter, Chapter 415 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, a file that has been maintained and developed by the Department of Planning relative to this particular request, and all contents contained therein. And then finally, any evidence that is provided as part of tonight's public hearing, including any testimony, exhibits, plats, or photographs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the first slide is an aerial image that identifies the lot in this light blue color. The double frontage that has been referenced in the discussion is with Taylor Road. This is State Route 109, Taylor Road, as it enters into the past the Sandalwood condominium complex and then into the Villages of Brightleaf here. The area visibility is from this location along Taylor Road, looking towards the rear of the home. The next slide is just the depiction of the solar panel placement on the rear of the home. And just for good measure, here's the front of the home from Hickory Manor Drive. And then this is standing near the sidewalk or trail location near some utility boxes that you'll see in later photographs showing the rear of the home through some of the vegetation. The panels will be placed on this roof face. And this may depict it best. This is standing at the edge of right-of-way Taylor Road, looking at those utility boxes I referenced. And this tan color is a section of the roof where panels will be placed. Again, as Mr. Vunich noted, barely visible, but visible nonetheless. This is another photograph where you can sort of see the roof through the vegetation here. And then this is standing farther back on the road, looking at in the direction of the home. And these photographs were taken in the month of August, I believe, where the trees are at their peak vegetation. I believe that concludes the slideshow. We can revisit any photograph any commission member would like to. And with that, I conclude. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Broyles. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Travis, I have a question. That last picture that you showed with the fence, I'm not sure, was that the front of the house or the back of the house? Beyond those trees?
I believe that would be towards the back of the house. I have to. Yes, ma'am, that would be looking from Taylor Road toward the rear of the home.
So there would be the solar panels on that back roof there.
That is correct.
And they would be visible in the winter.
That was the department's thought in scheduling it for a public hearing for a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brost, or Councilman Brost, sorry.
What's the grade change from Taylor Road to the house? Does the house sit lower or higher to Taylor Road?
I believe the house sits lower, but I will let Travis answer.
Mr. Brost, if you'll give me a moment, I'll pull a photograph that may help with the discussion. This photograph is standing at those utility boxes that are shown in other photographs that are level with Taylor Road. And as you can see, the home does sit slightly lower than that area. I don't have a exact dimension at this time, but
Yeah, that might be good to know. It looks like it maybe could be, maybe, it's deceiving, but maybe it's 20 feet. But that certainly would change the view from Taylor Road.
Councilmember Bros, we'll do a cross section from the roadway through the rear of the lot to the front of it, and then to the street, the cul-de-sac area.
Thank you.
Mayor Boland?
Well, I'll be last speaking, so I think Commissioner Depler had her hand up. If you may want to call on her first.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't see that, Commissioner Depler. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. And so in one of the pictures, that were showing the tree cover from Taylor Road, it was hard to tell in my small screen I have. So are any of those trees evergreens, or are they all deciduous or not?
There was at least one evergreen there, but it did look like a fair amount of them were deciduous to me.
Okay, thank you for showing that again. That helps. Thank you.
Let's see. Mayor Boland?
So I just saw photographs that we have that we apparently didn't include with this packet. Is that correct?
No, sir, in 26 years, we've never provided the slide presentation as part of the public hearing information. So we did not do that tonight.
Okay. So I would move to continue the hearing to the next meeting of the commission so that we have, I see Travis's hand. Well, Mr. Chair,
sorry,
I see
Mayor.
Travis's hand. It's your call.
Mr. Mayor, it wasn't my intent to interrupt you.
That's all right, go ahead.
However, we do have a hand raised Mr. Chair, we do have a hand raised in the attendees for tonight's public hearing. So whenever you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and bring Mr. Marquardt in.
Okay, so my name is Scott Marquardt. I am in Ward 2, and I just want to speak on regarding planning and zoning item 27-21, which is Sanchez Solar that we're speaking about. And I just want to say that I support any and all of my neighbors that want to utilize green energy and any other sources to reduce their impact on the environment. I reviewed the plans that were provided to the city and included in the primer for this hearing, and I fully support that my neighbor wants to install these panels in the proposed manner. And it's my opinion that there's going to be a positive impact on the community by reducing any negative effects of reliance on dirty energy sources, and that's going to provide positive impact to the neighborhood and to the community. And there's not going to be any negative impacts. This is a discussion whether there's a limited sightline of their roof panel while we're looking past a giant AT&T distribution box that's not hid in any manner whatsoever. So, I just want to say, as a community member, I fully support my neighbors and my fellow community in their attempts to provide green energy sources for their home.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would move to continue the hearing until the commission and the public have the photographs that included what we just saw, as well as any others that may help us put into perspective the placement and location of the solar panels. That would be my motion.
Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Depler?
Sorry, I agree with continuing this. I just had one question that I would like to have addressed before the next meeting is, it looks like the roofing is, of a brownish tan nature, and I just wanted to know what the solar panels themselves are going to look like if they're going to match the roofing color. Thank you.
All right. I guess we can do this with voice vote, I assume.
Correct.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes.
If anyone wanted to know, that AT&T Junction area, that was an old 80 type Lucent cabinet. And when Wildwood gets fiber to the home, whenever that gets done, that does not exist anymore. It's all passive fiber. Anyway, just it's my business. So thought I would let everyone know.
Let's see. Let me pull my agenda back up. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Vunich.
Mr. Newberry's going to do the honors tonight.
Okay. Travis? You're muted.
Thank you. I'm usually better than that. Thank you.
It's all right.
PZ 4-21 Randy Bookendorf, 2057 Wild Horse Creek Road, Wildwood, Missouri 63038. A request for a conditional use permit in the NU non-urban residence district for the retention of ground-mounted solar panels upon this 4.5 acre parcel of ground, which is located on the west side of Wild Horse Creek Road, north of Foul Zone Road. Street address 2057 Wild Horse Creek Road, locator number 23X530105. The petitioner is also seeking to retain certain roof-mounted solar panels, which are so situated on the existing dwelling that such are likewise visible from an abutting roadway. These installations are required to be reviewed in accordance with Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Residence District Regulations of the City of Wildwood Zoning Ordinance, which establishes standards and requirements for the installation of solar panels. The requested permit is required due to the proposed solar panels being of a ground-mounted design type, as well as roof-mounted panels situated on the area of the dwelling, which causes them to be visible from the abutting roadway. Ward 1.
Mr. Vunich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has prepared for your consideration tonight the draft letter of recommendation reflecting the two actions the Planning and Zoning Commission has taken on the request for the retention of the solar energy system and its two respective components. On August 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to deny the retention of the ground-mounted panels and continued or postponed any action on the roof-mounted panels till September 7th. On September 7th, the Planning and Zoning Commission, by a failed majority, recommended that the roof-mounted panels not be supported as well. Therefore, tonight, the letter of recommendation in draft form reflects the two actions of the Planning and Zoning Commission on these two components of the overall system and is ready to be forwarded to City Council for its receipt and filing. After the chair opens the floor for discussion or a motion is made, the department will be available to answer any questions and respond to comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Helfrey?
I make a motion to approve the city's recommendation.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler,
No.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
No.
Chair Beatty,
No.
Councilmember Brost,
Yes.
Mayor Bolin.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-3.
Next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PZ 24-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. A request for the consideration of possible changes to the regulations that are associated with Chapter 415.030 definitions, Chapter 415.090 NU non-urban residence district, Chapter 415.110 R1 1 acre residence district, Chapter 415.120 R1A 22,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.130 R2 15,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.140 R3 10,000 square foot residence district, Chapter 415.150 R4 7,500 square foot residence district, and Chapter 415.160 R6A 4,500 square foot residence district of the City of Wildwood's zoning ordinance that are intended to clarify the allowances and or prohibitions for short-term rentals within this community, all wards.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Vunich?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has provided to you tonight its information report with recommendation regarding the matter Mr. Newberry just read into tonight's record. The intent of the recommendation and the report is to support the prohibition against short-term rentals in any of the City of Wildwood's residential zoning districts. To accomplish such, the department is providing to the Planning and Zoning Commission 2 new definitions relating to this type of short-term rental, that being a definition of what a transient guest is, and then a guest room. Thereafter, the department in each of the residential districts, including the NU non-urban resident district, is proposing a new section that specifically prohibits short-term rentals. This is different than the current interpretation or interpretations, which requires the layering of several definitions to reach the same prohibition. Therefore, the intent is to simplify the description and make interpretation easier, not only for decision makers here at the City of Wildwood, such as the City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission, but our residents in all the R districts. Therefore, tonight, the department is presenting the revisions as proposed, and after the chair opens the floor for discussion or a motion is made, the department will be available for any comments or questions. And I would also ask that John Young participate if there are specifics regarding state statute or current case law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vunich. Any discussion? Mayor Bolin?
So bear with me just one moment. So the definition. Sorry, just 1 second.
You're fine.
So I guess my question is where in the report are all the definitions included in the report on pages 3 and 4?
Mr. Mayor, those are the existing definitions that are kind of layered to create the interpretation that short-term rentals are prohibited. It was brought to the attention of the city attorney, the city administrator, and the department that creating that layering is kind of difficult for, let's say, an average property owner to understand, and certainly could be simplified, and that's the intent. But those are the existing.
Okay. And so I thought that might be the case. So relative to page 5, under at the bottom where it says chapter 415.030 definition, add the following terms: transient guest. And it says any person who rents or occupies a guest room in a hotel or other lodging establishment. Is the term lodging establishment defined somewhere?
It is not under this proposal, but it is contained in state statute and defined therein. And it speaks to a lodging as a structure or building that accommodates up to 5 guest rooms, which would not be as applicable here as I thought it needed to be.
Well, what if it accommodates 1 guest room?
Then the intent would be is to address it as a guest room as defined, and through the restriction as proposed in each of the R districts.
But
And
that says
certainly-
it's regularly in the proposed definition in 415.0301 says a guest room would be regularly furnished to the public. What if it's not?
Then the definition is probably not as tight as I would like it to be to address, let's say, an intermittent Airbnb or short-term rental. So I would count on Mr. Young to help me revise that to make it, I think, to address all circumstances. Thank you.
So should we have a motion to postpone so that we can do that?
We certainly could, or you could provide direction that we strengthen the definition section and vote on the information report, but you'll still have the letter of recommendation to verify if Mr. Young and I have done the appropriate steps. And if not, then we could postpone the letter of recommendation if you choose. Either way works, I believe.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, City Attorney Young, what would your suggestion be?
Mayor, looking at this, having received it on Friday, I've got some suggestions consistent with what Mr. Bunich said and with the conversation this evening, and would suggest a postponement of consideration for presentation of the revisions that I have in mind.
Okay, thank you. So I would move to postpone to the next commission meeting.
Second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All those in favor say aye, or any discussion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Next item.
Mr. Chair, I'll be doing the honors on this one.
All righty.
AZ 21-21, Debbie and Peter Rademeyer, 17808 Suzanne Ridge Drive, Wildwood, Missouri, 63038. An update to the review items that have been required of the petitioners relative to retaining an existing outdoor game court that is located at 17808 Suzanne Ridge Drive, St. Louis County, locator number 21V 430362, R1 1 acre resident district with a planned environment unit, parenthetical PEU, which involved obtaining authorizations for structures in the established setbacks of the lot, preserving a light standard in the R resident district, and gaining favorable action on the site development plan, parenthetical SDP. This particular lot is located in Ward 3. Mr. Newberry will be presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has provided this memorandum regarding the matter that was just read into the record to the commission by way of an update regarding this outdoor game court. The Planning and Zoning Commission has approved the retention of the outdoor game court. The outdoor game court had also previously received a setback variance from the city's Board of Adjustment. And the update item is that the petitioner, following the Planning and Zoning Commission's review and approval, did seek a variance regarding the light standard that was identified by the commission during its review. And the city's Board of Adjustment did grant that variance to allow the retention of the light standard. The department's not seeking any action regarding this item. Again, it's just an update. And with that, Mr. Chair, the department's available for any questions if commission members have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Helfrey?
I would just like to say thank you for the update.
Agreed. Moving on.
The next item under other, Mr. Chair, is selection of Planning and Zoning Commission members to liaison positions on the Architectural Review Board, ARB, and Historic Preservation, HPZ, wards all.
Thank you. So, Travis, do you have anything, or is this on me?
Mr. Chair, I can give a brief presentation if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the commission's bylaws outline a time frame that the commission liaison to the Architectural Review Board and the Historic Preservation Commission are selected at the meetings following the nomination and election of officers. The commission completed its selection of officers at the September meeting, and this item is being introduced to the commission to have any members who are interested in those liaison positions to let Chair Beatty know, and we will have those items on the next meeting agenda for finalizing selecting the liaisons.
Thank you, Travis. Commissioner Broyles? You're muted.
Thank you. If there's no discussion about this, I would like to continue as the liaison on the Historical Preservation Commission. We just completed a lengthy, and some of you may have seen the time capsule that was present at Wildwood Days, or Celebrate Wildwood. And it's a wonderful committee to work on, and I would be willing to continue with that for another year.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there any interest in the ARB or other interest in Commissioner Cone?
Yeah, I would be interested liaison with the Architectural Review Board.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? I will leave this open for the month if anyone wants to contact me offline, but pending that, I appreciate Commissioner Broyles and Commissioner Cone's willingness to serve. Thank you.
So you're gonna leave it open for a month? You don't need a motion right now to approve those two?
I was under the impression that they'd said it would be selected at the next meeting.
My bad. I'm sorry. I missed that. That's right. It was. Never mind.
All right. No worries.
I was just really looking forward to making a motion just to get that off your plate. When you get volunteers, when you're chair, Beatty, you strike while the iron's hot, buddy.
All right. If that's within the rules and Commissioner Jackson wants to make that motion, I will.
So I'll make the motion. Yeah, for sure for you. And then you can keep it open for anyone else on the next one.
Seconded by Commissioner Bros. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstain? All right. Well, I appreciate your willingness to serve, and you are our new liaisons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the reports on the Superfund site.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, this too is a item that no action is required. As you know, when we did the public hearing on the Special Circumstances Overlay District on June 7th, there were questions raised about the availability of certain documents from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and the City of Wildwood. Over the course of the past 4 months or so, we've been trying to provide those documents to the Planning and Zoning Commission so as they can review them before action is requested on the Special Circumstances Overlay District and the 10 properties that have been identified for first consideration. There is a lot of information there, as Mr. Morecourt mentioned in the public comment session of tonight's meeting. And certainly the expectation is that the Planning and Zoning Commission should have ample time to review them. Therefore, we are providing them at least a month in advance of the first of the discussions of those 10 properties. If there are any questions regarding them, please feel free to contact Mr. Cross, Mr. Young, Mr. Newberry, or I. We'll do our best to either respond to them at that time or get the answers for you from the experts at US EPA or the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. But we are slowly cobbling together those items you've requested, and hopefully this is a big step in that direction. Mr. Chair, if there's any questions, department would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Commissioner Broyles. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is for Joe. This seems to be complicated for me and maybe for others as well. I feel like we need to take some time to review this until everyone on our group fully understands, to the best of all of our abilities, to understand all the differences in these particular pieces of ground. And I would appreciate us taking a slower pace on this and having the written documents ahead of time as well.
And Ms. Broyles, I concur. To make the assumption that in 30 days you could read all of the information provided would be an error on the part of the department. What Mr. Young, our city attorney, Mr. Cross, our city administrator, and I have talked about is there are 10 properties identified, but not all 10 are equal, so to speak. And we know, like the Bliss property, one of the 10 that have been identified is still on the national priorities list and appears to be for a foreseeable period of time to be retained on such. In fact, they're doing new groundwater monitoring in association with it at this time. So the thought is maybe to break up the 10 properties and address maybe those that clearly represent a risk to public health, and the others could wait as you went through the documentation to December or the new year, January. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to be helpful.
Mayor Bolin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Relative to Commissioner Broyles' inquiry, the city spent considerable time in developing 2 white papers on the most prominent sites in this area, the Strecker and the Callahan site. And I would ask that those please be distributed to the commission.
I will defer to Mr. Newberry, but I believe after the public hearing and the discussion of the white papers, we did provide those to the commission members shortly thereafter, if not the day after. But we'll verify, and if not, we'll do it again. And I probably will go ahead and do it again. It's just another email. You can certainly delete it if it's repeated. Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like I did see them, Mr. Vunich. And I could be wrong, but yeah. Commissioner Helfrey?
So kind of piggybacking on that, is there, I don't know, is there a reason those papers could not be added to this website or the page on the city's website regarding all these documents? Can we add those to that? And then it's all in one spot for us.
We certainly will. Mr. Newberry put together that selection of documents on the website. It was quite a challenge, and I do appreciate his efforts. And we'll add the 2 white papers there. And again, we'll email them again to you so that they're readily available if you'd like them.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I just echo Ms. Broyles. I'm very concerned because I don't know that I have a knowledge base for this. And I'm the last person to always believe the government if they come out with a report that says this property should stay on it, as opposed to someone says, no, it shouldn't. And I don't know how we wade through that, right? And so really going to be following the city attorney's lead on this. I'm getting the same letters that everyone else is getting on the one property. I don't know what's real or not real. But if it should be on an EPA, dangerous site, what do we do? This is a tough one. So just that's my general comment.
I understand your concern. Mayor Bowen?
So to follow up on the request for this the white papers to also be made available again to the public, I think they're on the city's website at some location, but I could not agree more. And to the extent anyone wants the underlying information that gave rise to those 2 white papers on the Callahan and the Strecker site, they can certainly get them. So I would also suggest that wherever we can make those available, not only to the commission, but to the public, so much the better. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just respond to Mr. Jackson's comment. Certainly, Mr. Jackson, the department is not an expert on contaminated sites, things along the lines that the US EPA and the Missouri Department of Natural Resources have that expertise. But we're certainly going to lean on the experts on this, as well as our city attorney, Mr. Young, who understands the law better than I believe most in this regard. And so we'll do our very best to give you clear, concise information to help you make that decision.
Mayor Bowen?
And again, my apology for another comment, but relative to that, we actually did retain an expert to advise us in developing those white papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Broyles, did I see your hand? No, okay. Any other comments?
The Chargers are up.
Seeing none, move on to the next item.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The last item relates to 2 components. The first is it's been a bit of time, I believe either 2017 or 2018, since the Planning and Zoning Commission has had a training session with the city attorney. Recently, the Board of Adjustment availed itself to one of the training sessions provided by Mr. Young, and I believe the members found it very informative and helpful. And certainly Mr. Young did a very good job of explaining just a lot of information in a relatively short period of time. In discussion with Mr. Cross and Mr. Young, the department believes a training session would be appropriate and has suggested potentially having it 2 weeks from tonight on October 18th. The training session could start at 6:30 p.m., allowing you all to have dinner and our regular time. And Mr. Young takes about 45 minutes, including potential questions or comments and responses. So tonight we're offering that training session as an option on October 18th. If that was not workable, October 12th is an available date. That might work, I don't know. And certainly if neither of those are options, we would send out an email to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Mr. Young to see what might work for the greatest number. The second item relates to the site plan subcommittee's recent meeting this evening on the Prime Place. My explanation hopefully will be clear to the Planning and Zoning Commission members. In our grading code, there is a prohibition against issuance of grading permits after November 1st. If the Prime Place does not have an approved site development plan, the grading permit cannot be issued by the Department of Public Works. What that inevitably means is twofold. The Prime Place would have to remove the sales trailer, which has an expense to it, but also would be then returned several months later. And also, the grading code says that if the permit isn't issued by November 1st, the grading cannot commence till March 1st of the following year. Basically, a prohibition of activity during the winter season. The next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission is November 1st, which means there's not a lot of leeway if something should go awry, whether someone couldn't attend, we wouldn't have a quorum, et cetera, et cetera. So if we were to meet on October 18th for the training session, the department wanted to gauge your interest of staying on for a regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but with just one item, the site development plan recommendation for the Prime Place. So those are the two things the department is requesting you to consider. Thank you.
Commissioner Depler, I think I saw your hand up first.
Yeah, thank you. I'm disappointed, but I will not be available on October 18th. I mean, I know we don't want to plan just around one person, but it's highly unlikely that I'll be out of work until that night. So just wanted to offer that up.
Thank you.
You know, a good point. I will not be available October 18th. I just realized a good date. That's not a good date for me.
Commissioner Helfrey?
Well, I hate to go against the crowd, but I am available October 18th. And so I will do my best to go to whatever date is the best for the group. But I would also say that I would agree that we go ahead and deal with the Prime permit at that time. I think that would be a good idea, because since we've gone from meeting twice a month to 1 month, it's really kicked things out a ways. So I think that would be a good idea, Mr. Bunich.
I agree with Commissioner Helfrey's comments.
Well, I'd be available on the 18th.
All right, thank
as
you.
well.
Commissioner Broyles?
I will be available on the 18th.
I also will be available on the 18th.
And Commissioner Cohn?
I'm available on the 18th, but I can't vote on the Prime Place.
Understood. It sounds like we have a quorum who would be available on the 18th if we go ahead.
Mr. Chair, We have 6 commissioner members that said they are available, 2 that are not, and Mayor Boland and Mr. Clayton haven't responded.
I am available on the 18th or the 12th.
Mayor Bowen?
I believe I'm available. I need to look at a couple of things for that, but I think I'm available.
I understand.
Well, Mr. Chair, without the mayor, we do have 7, so we could certainly have the training session. And we'll record that for any that cannot attend. And with 7, we could hold the Planning and Zoning Commission for the prime place.
I have a quick question, Joe. We have a quorum, so it doesn't matter, but let's just say we barely had a quorum. And someone has to abstain and they have interest in the one single topic we're covering. Would they count as part of that quorum, even though they're on the P and Z? I'm just wanting to know future reference.
They would count toward the quorum, but their abstention on the voting item is just as much a no vote as, let's say, not. So there is a risk to this, and certainly, I guess we're weighing risk on the number of members at the October 18th meeting versus something maybe going awry on November 1st. So I'm just trying to think ahead, and certainly your wisdom as the commission should always replace what the department is thinking. Thank you.
Does the 12th work for, it sounded like most people were available on the 12th. Does that work?
The 12th and the 18th are terrible for me anyway, but you have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
If I could we just get an email to everyone and then let that govern as to what we do rather than kind of going round robin with all this? Because I think that there are so many variables at this point. If Joe could or Travis could send an email to everyone letting us know when they propose to do something, and that's obviously a public document, and then we can respond to that and get it scheduled, because doing it on the fly right now is a little risky, I think.
I understand that too.
So, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, October the 12th, there are already 2 meetings scheduled for that night related to the 2022 budget. The Administration and Public Works Committee and the Economic Development Committee are both scheduled for that night on the 12th. So that probably wouldn't work with some folks on in this commission.
I appreciate the information. So we'll tentatively say the 18th for now, but yeah, Joe or Travis, if you could send out an email and get some confirmations or alternative dates.
We will do that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is everything. So Commissioner Helfrey, Commissioner Helfrey first.
Thanks. Sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment to say job well done and thank you to the members of the department who helped pull off a wonderful Celebrate Wildwood. I just felt like you guys needed some recognition. It was a big job, and I'm grateful for everything you do for our city. So thank you very much, Joe and Travis and the gang.
And we had great weather for that this year. Mayor Boland?
If we could just get in follow-up to the earlier conversation about including the photographs in the public hearing materials, if we could get a report maybe or something from our city administrator or the Department of Planning relative to that, so that we can at least have a consistent approach going forward. And I would suggest we probably would want to include those, but I'll leave that to those and the city attorney. But without objection, I would ask that we have that for the next meeting so that we can make sure that we can decide what we're going to do relative to that going forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Broyles, I think I saw your hand.
I was just going to thank Joe and Travis for the wonderful picnic that we had at the park the other night. I think one was the executive chef and the other one was the sous chef. But thank you.
I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I was out of town.
Me too. I feel sad that I missed it.
I as well. Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by
Okay.
Commissioner. All those in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed?
Good night.
Good night.
Aye, everyone.
I
Thank you.